Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pails, steel-toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure. Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jalen.
Can I quote it, John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
Low key, one of my favorite parts of that open is the Bobby's "What are we apologizing for?" I know. Look at this boomer right here, gets a lot of love. You know,
that's my favorite.
But it's great. Look at this boomer right here. But
I don't remember what game it was, but I think Jalen played great and had played bad the game before or 2 games before, and everyone was like, "Apology cam for Brown," and it was like, what?
That's not how this works, people. Because then you have to apologize if he plays bad next time. That's not how it works. Anyway, we're doing a Celtics-Cavaliers preview. Play Cleveland Cavaliers, round 2 of the NBA playoffs. We know this, and we are here to talk you through it. Some series predictions on, let's be serious, a boring-ass series. Doesn't mean it's not a losable. Doesn't mean it's not something that they could lose. It just is what it is.
You think the Magic would have been more fun?
Nope. I do not. But it is what it is. That's what we've got. We're not going to complain because you know what? We like doing Garden Reports. We're going to keep doing them. We want to tell you that the Garden Report is presented by Prize Picks, right? As always.
Yes, it is.
America's #1 fantasy sports app. Gotta love it. Make sure you sign up today. And I'm looking for the other one. Ahmed, I lost game time. Lost it. Don't have it. Just don't have it. There it is. Game time. Download the Game Time app. Do that as well. #1 mobile ticket marketplace app out there. Welcoming Game Time to the CLNS Media Network and to the Garden Report. And guys, let's get right into it. As the series progressed, and as you were watching more of Cleveland and Orlando, when it was clear that, okay, well, obviously you knew you were getting them the whole time, but you start to focus in on it after the Celtics wrap things up, and you watch Game 6 and you watch Game 7, and I know Jared Allen's not playing there, so, Cleveland's a little bit affected. He's questionable for Game 1. How did your opinions evolve of this matchup? I had a tough time kind of centering around who would I rather play, and I don't know that I ever landed on anything that I felt good about, but I don't know. Where did you guys land, Josue?
Well, I landed on, believe it or not, I landed on the Cleveland Cavaliers because I just thought without Kristaps,
that's what you preferred.
That's what I prefer for Boston, yeah. Because yeah. I think with and we talked about it after the first round wrapped up, just the challenges in terms of the size, athleticism, hunger, that whole we're not supposed to be here, but here we are against the Celtics. I just thought that it would be a tougher series overall, again without Kristaps Porzingis. With the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think it's, I don't want to say easier, but the challenges are different. And I feel like against the Cavs, there's a lot of mismatches and a lot of things that the Celtics can take advantage of. And what I mean by that is without, especially if Jared Allen's supposed to miss, 1, 2, or 3 games in this series, that takes a lot out of what Cleveland's going to try to do defensively. And even without Kristaps, I just think with Al spreading the floor and the way he's focused right now in the sense of, hey, no Kristaps, I got to step up here. Even though he's talking about his role doesn't really change, I just think you get a much more focused and consistent Al, better than what we saw throughout the first round because of the circumstances. And I just think 1 through 5, it just provides a lot of tough matchups for the Cleveland Cavaliers. However, if they get out in front, if they play in transition, I think that's big for them. And, of course, Donovan Mitchell is a big part of that. Of course, Darius Garland. I mean, we know the kind of points that these two can put up, in that backcourt. But I just think a lot of, who else is going to really step up consistently for these guys offensively to offset the type of mismatches and complicated, offense that Celtics essentially have been, especially throughout that Heat series. I feel like they really adapted. They do a really good job of just adapting to the way they're being covered. And then in the second half, they sort of run away with it. Of course, after Game 2 Celtics that we saw, that version of the Celtics that we saw against the Heat. I think that's what, for the most part, we're going to see against the Cavs. They're going to have to really rely on other guys to step up offensively, whether it's LeVert, whether it's old friend Marcus Morris. I just think it gets really thin for these guys outside of Garland Donovan Mitchell's offensive production.
Yeah, the health is key. I think you can rule Porzingis out for this series.
I'm popping out for 2 seconds, Bobby. Same question, obviously, to you. I'll be right back. Sorry, just have to grab.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the health situation ends up being. I hedged my prediction. I just put our predictions up on CLNSmedia.com so you can check those out. I hedged mine on Cleveland not being healthy because a rib injury sounds bad. Sounds like something that takes some time here. And I know Allen's questionable for game one, but I don't see him being ready to start this series. Dean Wade is out officially. And if that's the situation the Cavs are going to be playing in, I don't think they have a chance here. Now, if those guys get back in and you have your full assortment of depth and Porzingis is out on that Boston side, this is a real series to me. And I don't think the Magic were capable of putting together a real series. They might have stolen one. The Celtics fell asleep or didn't play right. They could have stolen two. But I didn't think there was any real chance the Magic could win that series. Especially, I mean, they were shooting 30% or under from three. Worst three-point shooting team in the league, I think, or one of them. Worst one in the playoffs, at least, Orlando. And you just can't make up that gap if you're the Magic, especially when you're not prolific in other. I know they generated the most free throws in the NBA, which could have helped them out, and they're great on the offensive boards. But they just didn't have the firepower, didn't have the creation, turned the ball over too much. Cavs do that too. You know, I think they're pretty similar. It was really hard to pick one team or the other. I know you probably went back and forth a little bit, John, as you're coming in.
A little
blurry there.
How's that? Is that better?
A little bit, actually.
I know. I'm just
It's
kidding.
like the chin going.
If the Cavs get to full health, this is a real series. If they're not, they don't have a chance. And it's not looking good to start for them on that front. But this is a team that's played you tough for 2 years. And I know I expected the Heat to play you pretty tough. They really didn't. And injuries were a big part of that. So I think the Cavs are going to run into a similar challenge here by just not having their key guys. But Mitchell's available. Garland's available. You have wings. You have Mobley. So the guys who are out shouldn't remove them from competitiveness in this series the way the Heat's absence just made them a complete no-show for most of that series. So these are real games. I don't know if game one will be real. I think the Celtics might just come out and smoke them again. John, you lost to them the last time you played them, and the first two games were decided by like 6 to 8 points.
Yeah, what's his name went off for the game of his
career.
So
it doesn't count? The Celtics were fully healthy.
It counts, but does it really strike fear in these guys if you're the Celtics?
It's not fear.
Do it again. That's the thing. Is like I think they can win a game. I think if the Celtics puke all over themselves, they can win two.
If the Cavs are fully healthy, you think this is 5 games?
If the Celtics are fully healthy, I think it's 5 games. Generally speaking, I just don't see it because I don't think they're that good. And like I said, I put in my prediction. I got 2 words for you: Marcus Morris. Like if Marcus Morris is your next
worse
man,
than Marcus Morris, John. Come on.
If Marcus Morris was playing as much NBA basketball as you were a month ago, like Marcus Morris,
he thought the phone would ring sooner. That's true. He thought it
was on the street. Okay. I mean, give me a break.
That's why I'm saying full health, John. If they're full health, he's not playing.
I mean, are we talking about Dean being one of the guys returning to full health because he had one ridiculous game against you? Like,
no, he's a big wing who can guard Tatum, who's done it in the past. They need that. And they need their assortment of big men.
Here's 2 more words, Bobby.
Stay in front. I don't know if he can
2 more words for you. Tristan Thompson, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Thompson and Morris
here
are in this rotation. Yeah, that's a good point.
What are we doing here? Okay.
If Mobley and Allen are healthy, he's not playing. So that's the thing. If it's going to be the Thompson and Morris show and Okoro as to start, they're done. But let's see what players show up.
I think this is my exact take. It should be 4-1. It might be 4-2 if they get too cool for school. Literally, this was my original prediction, and I was like, screw it. That's a coward. I'm taking 5 because of that, because of just the firepower. And they just don't play well.
But it's all about matchups, John. You run into the best defensive team.
This is
let's
worse
call them that. This is worse than the Magic's defense?
No, I'm saying this is worse for Cleveland to go up against compared to what they went against in Orlando. And they
I'm just saying
They barely got it.
Every series is different. The Magic, they have the fewest possessions in the league. They play like University of Virginia. They just slow the game to a halt, and it becomes this defensive clash. And they're missing Allen
But we
for
don't have to
3
talk
games,
about
and they're
them.
missing Wade. Right. I'm just saying, if we're gonna say what 5 teams have played the Celtics the toughest over the last 2 years, that includes this year. Those first 2 games were decided by less than 10, and the Cavs won the 3rd game. You're talking Denver. You're talking OKC. You're talking probably like the Heat and, whoever you want to put in there as the 4th team. But you're definitely putting the Cavs on that list of teams that have played the Celtics the toughest over the last 2 years. They took 3 out of 4 games.
That's all last year, though, Bobby. Most of that is.
But this year, too.
That's a completely different team.
Go back and watch the start of the first game of the year these 2 teams played. The Cavs exploded out to a 25-10 lead. Porzingis played terrible in the first half, and they turned it around and won, closed out the game great in crunch time. But these are going to be real games. First round, they weren't real games. The Heat just didn't have anything.
I'm going to agree with this Dudley take, too. This is another one. I'm sorry. We can talk it up because I don't think anything is automatic with the Celtics when their demons, show up. But
I know Porzingis, John. We got to account for that.
Yeah, but again, I know it.
But you can guard the Celtics differently.
I wrote this as well. I think
there
you can, but I also think it forces them to play with a little bit more pace, which keeps them from reverting back to their bad tendencies. So that's the trade-off with the Porzingis thing. I think they play a tad faster. They move the ball a little bit better. They're not just trying to force it. They match up Hunt a teeny bit less. And, I think they'll end up with, again, they threw some number out there with the assists and the 3-pointers. And when they hit those metrics, they win. And I just think that that's what they're going to do here. And I just don't think Cleveland can score with them. Yeah, great. I'll give you a 1 play with your food game and a 149-point Donovan Mitchell out of his mind game, and maybe they sneak 2 games out. That's as much as I can see here. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah, I mean that could be the same game too, right? So maybe that's the
maybe
that's performance we see from Cleveland in this series. That could very
That's why it could be that. It could be the same game. Absolutely.
I think Al changes a lot. I really do. I just think. I mean, to your point, John, I feel like you don't have that, okay, nothing else is working, let's just dump it into Kristaps, which they've done a lot, when the offense just kind of goes stagnant. But I think Al, being that constant threat, just spreads the floor out for guys like Tatum, Brown, Derek White, what he's been doing. I think that carries over into this series as well because he sort of has that freedom, especially in transition and, making the opposing defenses pay. I don't think that slows down in this series, because I think a lot of the focus is going to be on their wings, obviously between Tatum and Brown, but also just what Derek White brings defensively as well is going to be really hard on top of Drew Holiday containing that backcourt. I just think it's a lot has to go well for the Cavs to string together a win in this series. So I think it happens once. I really do.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Bobby, with me, it's less a prediction for me and it's more of a dare. I dare you to just go out and just wipe this team out in 5 games because that's what you should do. I dare you. Go do it. Anything less than that is going to be annoying, I think. That's just the way I feel about it. So, look, it's ugly. And I know people are saying this. Did we watch the series? Yeah, I watched all of it. It was rough. And you know why? Orlando's good at defense. 2nd ranked, 3rd ranked defense in the league. Celtics are good at defense. When the Cavs are so
injured. Are we really about to do this again?
The Cavs can't really score. And so I'm just not, even throughout the course of the year, it just is not a team that strikes any fear in you. I do think, as you said, you've got a couple of good players, but it's the NBA. Everyone's got a couple of good players. That's that. Didn't. What I know the Heat didn't. But what do the Cavs do that worry you? And Sam, thank you for everything and all that you do as well,
thanks,
guys. And thank you for any super chats. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I agree.
Well, they have real. They have real.
I agree with what you said, Bobby. I actually wanted to play Cleveland more for the Celtics perspective, but in an odd way, I also think they present the greater chance of the 2 potential opponents they could have faced to lose. Because there is enough real there. It's just I look at it as Not could Cleveland go out and steal a game in Boston? Absolutely. Can Cleveland win 4 out of 7 games against the Celtics? I can't see that under any circumstances. I can't.
Under any?
I can't. 0, none.
Let's say the Celtics lose one more guy. The Cavs get
Well, I
healthy.
mean, that's ridiculous.
Unforeseen circumstances, Bob.
Okay. He said anyway.
Let's say it snows on the court and they don't wipe it up on the Celtics side. Like, it doesn't. I mean,
no,
I'm just talking about.
I'm just trying to give this team real respect, John. And I know I did that last round, and they weren't warranted of respect. But you still have Mitchell here, and that's the big thing.
It's the thing you do. I understand. I respect it.
Which Mitchell are we? Which Mitchell are we getting here? Because that was not Donovan Mitchell last round. I know he had 50 points in one of the games, but he shot 25% from 3. I think he was like under 30 off the bounce, which is like his thing, and just didn't look like he had that burst to him. So again, another thing we have to factor here, like Allen, Wade, who I do think is important here, and Mitchell. I think Garland's dealing with a little something too, like a back. Man, like, are we about to do this again? The other team's just obliterated, and it's just going to be like a practice series for the Celtics?
Kinda.
I mean, it's out the side of their hands, right? So they can't control that, but that's just
tough
what's going on.
That's tough to watch if that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're the Celtics, you count your blessings that, okay, yeah, Kristaps got hurt, but you're also thankful that it's not more guys, because look across the Eastern Conference, that's the case for almost every team that's still in it, you know? And the Celtics they've been fortunate.
So let's talk about, I think Allen's out to start. Mitchell's going to play. Wade's already officially out for game 1. So let's just rule Allen and Wade out for the start of this series for however long. It's going to be a slog for the Cavs offensively, but can they make it tough enough defensively on the Celtics where it's going to be a close game, where you'd keep it in play until crunch time, and then we start to see a crunch time between two of these teams? Because we didn't see a single crunch time in that Miami series, did we? Not that I can remember. So that's how the Cavs are going to have to do this. I'll be interested to see how they deploy Mobley. You can put him on Tatum directly and just try to take him out of the series completely. And Tatum did shoot 38% in this matchup during the regular season. So this could be another team that says, Tatum, we're just taking you out of the series. Everybody else is going to have to beat us here. Horford's going to be the big one, and Josue mentioned it. If I'm the Cavs, I shy away from him and try to make him beat you from 3, make him beat you against a small, and just put extra pressure on those perimeter guys. And then, of course, White comes into play there too. Probably put Mitchell on White, so that puts that Garland matchup on Drew. And can Drew exploit that? And so this is a series, I think, where you're going to have to look to Jalen again. You're going to have to look to Drew to get involved offensively. And Horford's going to have to hit his shots because it's a real defense. I think this team's going to scheme tough. I think there's a couple guys that make it tough on you defensively. And like you said, John, if they're just not able to put points up and chase you on that end, it won't really matter. But we'll go back to the Celtics.
Hurdle for these guys, man.
We'll go back to the Celtics. If they're struggling to get it done offensively, if Tatum's not getting his points, can they still stay in the game enough in all the little areas to extend their leads and, you know, make these uncompetitive games? I thought Tatum did a phenomenal job of that in round 1. He's going to have to do it again here, John. This is another series where he could be shooting 40% and has to do all the other little things to keep the Celtics in position to win.
Well, then that's what he's going to need to do. We'll talk more about Tatum. We'll talk about what, if anything, the Celtics could do to lose this, what they need to do to win it. Do the Cavaliers have an edge anywhere? We'll talk about all of that. First off, we want to let you know about our sponsor here at the Garden Report, one of our many sponsors at the Garden Report, and that, of course, is Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. More than 3 million members, easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. Pick more or less, 2 players or more, whatever stats you choose, watch the winnings roll in. Again, win up to 100 times your money, you know, playing basketball, hockey, what have you. You can play along celebrities in kind of group context. You have injury insurance here in case your player gets hurt in the first half of the game. Lots of different things here that make this a really fun and exciting app to use. If you want to get in on the action, download the app today. Use that code CLNS for a first deposit match up to 100. Once again, download the app. Use the code CLNS, first deposit match up to 100. Pick more, pick less. It is that easy. Also, we want to tell you about Game Time. This is another cool one, a really cool opportunity. If you want to go to the big game, you've got a lot going on right now. Look at this game. Murderers Row week here. If you want to get in on some action, you've got Celtics Tuesday, Celtics Thursday, Bruins Friday, Bruins Sunday, Celtics back on Thursday. You are just loaded. You got 2 winner teams in the playoffs here. The Garden's going to be rocking. It's a really hot, it's going to be a hot ticket, and the deeper they get, the harder these tickets are. All of us, hey, like I said, we get to pop in and out with our press credentials. We're pretty lucky, but Game Time's an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, makes getting playoff tickets faster and easier.
This is how Jimmy's going to get in.
This is how Jimmy gets in, because I won't let him. I'm not wasting a credential on that guy. Prices on Game Time app go down closer it gets to tip-off. Killer last-minute deals, a lot of great features, including flash deals, a panoramic view of your seat. Every time you log in, you want to see where you're sitting, what it's going to look like for any sport or event. I think this is particularly great for concerts. Lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you $110. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS. 20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, that redeem code CLNS, 20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's get into some of this stuff. As you mentioned, no Kristaps Porzingis. Where does this affect the Celtics most here? And again, when you're missing your second or third best player, it affects you everywhere. Where is it going to affect them most in this particular matchup?
I think it's going to put an onus on them to move the ball, play with pace, and find their matchups within the flow of the offense, right? Because I think the Cavs will probably do a pretty good job hiding Garland. You can maybe put him on on Holiday to start, sneak him on Horford at different points. And, that's the guy you're going to want to target there, right? Garland. They shot 50% against him during the year. Not much of a defender. Smaller guy. So you're targeting him. You can try to go at Mitchell too, but I was actually surprised to see he held up. Celtics only shot 40% against Mitchell during the year, and he missed that third game. So
Mitchell, as far as the metrics go, and again, maybe there's some Sam Hauser kind of BS going on here. Mitchell had a very solid defensive year relative to what we're used to seeing from him. So
right.
I don't think that's an aberration.
And he's strong. He's bigger.
He was better.
So you can't just run pick and roll with Kristaps to get Garland in the post and just finish right over him. And, I know Levert's a little weak there too. And Mitchell, at least size-wise, you can try to finish over him. But to do it, to line up those matchups, you're going to have to play fast. You're going to have to pass the ball effectively. The turnovers are going to be so crucial in this series. Cavs turn it over a lot. I think that's when you look at those metrics we always look at, like the matchup stats. That's the one where they really lose bad to the Celtics. The 3-point shooting is actually pretty close. The rebounds, pretty close. And the free throws actually a little bit in the Cavs' advantage. So turnovers, you can't do it in this series. You can't give the ball away. You can't give the Cavs that edge too. That's what's actually going to make these games close. So it's going to be these facilitators. Tatum, can you do it again in this series? Make those great reads. Find that matchup. This is another big Derek White series, I think. Those guards are going to be on him. He can take advantage of those guys. You got to get it to him. And you can't just try to attack this defense head on if it's just going to be, let's say, Okoro on Tatum to start and Mobley standing at the rim, waiting for him in help position. This is going to be a tough one for Tatum again, I think. Like, he's really going to have to dedicate to being a passer because they are not going to let him beat them.
Yeah, no question. I think, again, like, you don't have Kristaps to sort of bail you out of those situations. But my whole thing is also on the defensive side, or at least throughout the second unit. I think guys like Luke Cornett probably get some more playing time a little bit. I think, you need some consistency from your bench now that Horford is not a part of that. So I think there's a little more pressure on guys like Hauser and Pritchard.
This is a great Cornett series, Josue.
It is. It's a big spot for your boy there. And if he doesn't come correct, Bobby, someone's going to take
here we
spot.
go.
But yeah, I mean, look, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm mute, John.
The second unit overall, I think, puts a little extra pressure on them.
It's just a hyperbole. Just don't say this is a great Cornet series.
It is a great
Just-
Cornet
Just
series.
say I think Cornet could be effective here. That's it.
It's a good spot for him. Yeah, it is. But again, I don't with the life without Kristaps, I don't think that means you up Al Horford's usage rate. You know what I mean? I don't think it changes a whole lot. I think you do see him play a little more minutes, but I think this applies pressure a little more on the second unit. And I think when you look at this Cavs team, pretty thin, guys coming off the bench. If you're Cleveland, you're hoping one of these guys catch fire. I mean, Georges Niang, you guys see that in the first round? He combined for like 9 points in the first three games.
Brutal.
Like that's what they're dealing with right now. People think that Marcus Morris is this is ideal for them. No, like they're going down to him because they have nobody else, man. And look, I've been a big fan of Marcus, but not having that phone ring for as long as it did, it obviously played a part in him trying to get back into motion and all that.
This is the problem we have with players whose names we know, who we haven't seen much of recently. You remember them being effective at some point and don't realize how long it's been since they've been that guy. And then you look and you're like, oh, geez, Marcus hasn't done shit in 4 years. And you're like,
man.
Oh.
Philly they grew really impatient. They're like, look, we need somebody else. And they were looking for someone to covet that 8th, 9th spot that you could turn to for 9, 10, 11 minutes. And they just decided that they were going to go another route. And I think Marcus thought that phone would ring a lot sooner. And again, because of these injuries, because of what Cleveland's going through, I mean, that's why he essentially got that phone call. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years, again, of nothingness. He had those couple of years in Cleveland where he was shooting the freaking lights out, particularly from 3. And it was like, wow, let's get a guy like that. Last 2 years have just been dead years. And again, we saw him, and I'm not it sounds insensitive. I don't mean to me. He just looked heavy and slow. Like he just didn't look like he had any juice at all. So, again, I don't see it there.
I'm gonna
muck the game up though, John. I think that's something he might do just for
what is the Celtics' biggest edge here in the series?
I think he'll muck the game up a little bit.
They have a lot, obviously, but one it's why I bring Luke up here, not just because of Luke. They can play drop all day against this team, and this actually surprised me. Someone on Twitter brought it up. I didn't see.
Just time out, real quick.
Yeah,
I just want to point out here that my question was, what is the Celtics' biggest advantage versus Cleveland? And within the first 7 words of your answer, Luke's name came up.
It's like once it comes up, it just snowballs.
It's not about him, though.
I don't mind talking a little about Luke. Or do we really believe that he belongs in the first sentence of an answer to the question, what's the biggest advantage the Celtics have here?
Only because they're going to be able to play drop all day long in this series, whether it's double big, whether it's single big for the Cavs. Their wings are just so bad at shooting, as Josue said there, that they can just drop their big. And Cornet, that's what he's best at. And Horford will do it too, obviously. But I was stunned to see this Cavs team 30th in mid-range shot frequency. They were dead last this year in taking mid-range shots. And they have Mitchell, they have Garland, they have these guys you think step into mid-rangers. But that area where we've talked about, John, in the past where the Celtics look vulnerable, that mid-range area, the Cavs just won't take those. And, I was talking to Justin about that last night, too, in our preview show. Of all the things we're talking about here that the Cavs are up against it, the Celtics are just going to give them that mid-range area, take away the rim, try to take away those threes, and the Cavs do shoot a lot of threes, more than you would think. But they're not taking mid-rangers. I can't believe it. So that's what opens the door for Luke in this series to me to really be effective. Horford, I think he can drop back more than switch in this series, which I think is going to help him here too. So the Celtics defense, that's how I label it, John, not Luke. The Celtics defense, I think, can be their biggest strength in this series.
I'm going to go with Tatum and Brown for 500. I'll go with that.
No, because I don't think.
Who is
Are they going to let those guys beat them, Josue?
Too easy.
I just think it's a constant threat that they're going to have trouble trying to stop. Honestly, man, I think that's a big advantage if you ask me, for sure. I mean, when you don't have the type of offense to counter that, or at least the type of guys who are ready for this moment, for this series. I mean, outside of Donovan Mitchell, it gets really thin. Yeah, Darius Garland has shown you what he can do offensively, but he hasn't been in a series like this before. I mean, none of these guys really have. I just feel like when it comes down to it, especially throughout the course of a game, going into the third quarter, going into the fourth, like these guys should be equipped to the point where it's like, okay, this is what we need to do to make this a 12, 15-point game. And I think that's going to happen a handful of times in this series, whether it's Jalen or whether it's Tatum. I just think they have that's going to be a constant, like, we can't stop the bleeding type of thing between these two. And it'll be enough to create that type of space they need in the second half to run away with a 15, 16-point win, especially in game one. So, but yeah, I think that's a huge advantage in this series, having those guys.
All right.
What do you say, John?
I as far as advantage, I think is overall talent and just the ability to play multiple different ways, which the Celtics have. And I think that's kind of the problem is you can take something away, but something else is going to beat you. And again,
so let's draft the players in this series.
A lot.
That's a bigger issue but I don't think it really, like, sure, you assume Garland's going to go ahead of Derek White in a player draft. You're telling me he's more valuable to this series than Derek White is? No freaking way. No, I'm sorry. Like, that's the problem is, like, I think Mitchell is your X factor because he's got to get you the points, and you're going to need Mobley to kind of man up there in the middle. But, and after Garland, Garland, I'm not going to say I'm not worried. He's a really talented guy.
It's Tatum first, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I do this, I'm just going to upset everybody.
Who goes? No, just be
Probably
fair.
Really wants to do this. He's not going.
It's Tatum 1. Okay, if you really want, it's Tatum 1. It's Donovan 2.
Donovan 2.
Derek White. It's Derek White 3.
Okay.
Sorry.
So it's 2-1.
That man is showing 55%, almost 60%.
Then I'll throw in Jalen 4. Garland 5. Holiday 6. If you really.
What about
really
Mobley?
Go through it. Yeah, he's in there. I got blurry again. I'm gonna
7 maybe.
All right, wait. You do it, Josue, because John rushed through it a little bit. Who are you drafting?
Tatum. I'll go Tatum, Mitchell. I don't know, Brown or White. You could flip a coin, honestly.
So them 3 and 4?
I go Garland 5, honestly.
Garland 5. 6
is probably Mobley.
Mobley's so huge in this series. And we talked about it last night. Man. People are talking about him as Tim Duncan coming into the league. And he hasn't met the mark. Like, he needs to be great in this series for the Cavs to even have a chance. And he just hasn't been. And this has been a brutal matchup for him. He missed the first 2 games of this series during the regular season. Then he came out in that third game, and the Cavs won, but he shot 2 for 8. Horford just completely took him out. So if it's going to be Horford and Mobley to start this series, that's another big Celtics advantage right now.
Yeah, for sure, man. Especially because Al can hold his own in the top of the key. If he has to guard some of these guards for a few possessions, I don't think there's a whole lot of drop off there, even though there's no Kristaps.
I think they'll just drop him back, though.
I'll ask you guys if the Cavs have an edge here, what is it?
It's got to be Mitchell, right? His ability to take over a game, steal a game, win a crunch time moment.
Who are you putting on him to start? Are you putting Holiday on him? You putting Jalen on him?
I think you put Jalen on him and try to just have.
I want to put Jalen on him just to make sure that he doesn't play it cool, right?
Right.
Like you want to give it to him, right? Like sink or swim, like
and let Holiday do some off-ball stuff. Some disruptiveness away from.
Plus, these guys were just fighting for their lives a couple of days ago. I mean, yeah, give them the tougher assignment, which would be Jalen for sure. He can stay in front of him.
The Cavs are gonna have a lot of issues on offense if Okoro's starting, if Mobley like those guys just don't shoot the ball. So you can really muck it up defensively if you're the Celtics. And I'll say something similar to what I said last series, John. You need to make defense your strength in this series because if you take the Cavs offense out of play,
yes,
it's over.
That's exactly it. Exactly it is the Celtics' ability to, and again, the Cavaliers because
you're punching a wall a little bit on offense.
They're a good regular season defensive team. I think when you take Allen out of that mix, that's going to affect it. But I think Porzingis affects the Celtics' ability to rim protect a little bit for sure. That being said, I think the Celtics can win the series flat out with solid defense and mediocre offense. Cleveland cannot. That's the problem. So you just go balls out with your defensive effort. I don't know that Cleveland can muster together enough wins there, even if your offense sputters a little bit, because I just don't think Cleveland's going to be able to put up the points. But that's just me.
Yeah, I'm with you, John. I mean, I just finding a hard time of putting it together for these guys. Maybe LeVert has a big game off the bench. Maybe these guys can muster up points in that way. But I just think, between Yang, possibly you get a double digit. Him scored in double digits. I feel like it's really hard in the playoffs, and I just think that's a huge hole to have in the sense of not having that someone that can score from the wing or some sort of 3-point threat, something to force the Celtics to defend the 3-point arc. I think it's going to kill them in this series, man.
Yeah. What in the world was that?
It's bike season, man. First time we hit 80 degrees today, so yeah, a lot of bikers out there.
That's all good. Ahmed, I need
Cheap
an
bikes.
updated
Cheap bikes out here. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Bobby had to tap out for a little bit. Hold on one second, and we'll keep talking about it here. And again, we're just going to hang out for a little bit here.
Do you think we get a revenge game for Max? Do you think that happens, Max Strus?
Cedric Maxwell?
I know. As soon as I said Max, I was like, wait, no, not that guy.
What's the revenge?
I don't know, just like a 22-point game where he makes like 6 threes.
I like Max. I really do. I always like the guy, and I like him. I do. But I don't know.
Bobby, you think that happens?
Max
revenge game
is
for
the
Max?
guy who makes you pay when you decide you're just not gonna cover the 3-point line.
He plays his ass off.
Tag off people.
Yeah. Well, hey, it could happen. I mean, for Celtics fans that don't know, I mean, he was cut essentially for what was it, Javonte Green in the preseason?
Yeah.
I love that they're going from. I love that they're going from the whole Heat thing to Strus extending that Heat thing into the second round here.
Oh yeah, he didn't forget. He reminded people he wanted that. Yeah.
Bobby and I believe Josue both went to Celtics practice today. And I'm going to get a sense of your vibe in terms of the team. And again, we're talking about subjective reads like focus, but their attitude loose and blah, blah, blah. But here's some of what they had to say about facing the Cleveland Cavaliers from Bobby and Josue catching up with them today. It's not playing.
This is a different team in Miami. I think they a little bit more offensive firepower. Maybe, some longer bigs. I don't know, but you just get ready to play. That's it.
He's like, whatever.
You can't even
right.
Ain't no friends in the playoffs. You just got to get ready to play. So. That's what I gotta say.
Yeah,
That's what I like.
Mobley, Allen, sure is gonna be back eventually. Okoro, they got a lot of guys that can create problems, and so we just got to continue to have the right spacing and the right attack and make the right decisions at the rim. So, all great defenders, and it's gonna be a challenge.
Yeah, they changed matchups, they changed coverages, and they mixed it up. So. I think they're an underrated defensive team, even though they're on the top, but they're underrated in some of the intricacies that they do with the ability that they have to change matchups, the ability that they have to change coverages on the fly, and you got to be sharp and ready to attack those within the game.
I love how they say they have guys, and they mention the same 2-3 guys. I love that.
Jalen was like, I don't freaking know. I have to say something nice, I guess.
I mean, that was
he even smiled. Couldn't keep a straight face.
Some guys.
That was the vibe today. Yeah, we're playing them.
Yeah,
we're good.
The Celtics are us here. Yeah. Maybe some longer bigs. I don't know. Their shoes are shiny. They're nice.
I think half of that's the Cavs, John, but I also think half of that's Joe's approach of who cares about the other side. We're not even talking about these guys. We're talking about what we do and what we have to do. Right. And I think that's the right approach to some degree, as we've talked about. It's going to be the Celtics that prevent themselves from advancing.
That's exactly it. That's kind of it, and that's why, when in my initial in my initial
Analysis.
projection. I was just basically going to say, like, and they'll lose as many games as they make themselves lose. I just don't think, it's one of those series where, yeah, it's an NBA team. Anybody can shoot the lights out. You can have a bad day. You can lose games. You don't expect to beat better teams every single time. But I really do think most losses or anything that happens bad to the Celtics here will be entirely self-inflicted. We want to tell you guys again briefly before we wrap up, and we're gonna talk for a little while longer, and then we're gonna let you guys go. Final sponsor here at the Garden Report is PXG, which, if you don't know about it, very cool golf attire. PXG on a mission: create the most high-quality, high-performance golf clubs in the game. Same passion and excellence to their new line of apparel, and we all got some. And we love it. And as I said, I'm not wearing it now. It's awesome, cool, like breathable clothing, really like high quality stuff. Awesome for golf or awesome just to wear around. Premium materials, technology design, peak performance. When it gets hot, man, I need shirts like this. I freaking love it. As I said, I received one and I bought one. I liked it that much. From golf trips to just kind of hanging out night in the town, PXG apparel, something for everyone. Pants, polos, sweaters, quarter zips, joggers, whatever. And again, like I said, I got 2 polos already and I love them. So elevate your style game on and off the course with PXG Spring and Summer 2024 collection. Head over to pxg.com/garden. Use the code GARDEN, check out, save 10% on all apparel. This is good savings here on high quality stuff. Once again, use that code GARDEN at checkout, 10% on all apparel. pxg.com/garden, code GARDEN, 10% on everything. Going back to the series here, and as again, let me get off someone put my commercial on. That's fun too. Going back to the series here, just general thoughts kind of heading into it. You guys talked about it here after we listened to them and the sound from these guys. It's like a whatever sort of thing. Any fear of like the whole playing with your food sort of thing again, of not taking them seriously? And again, there's not a lot of villains out here, like all of their, like, it doesn't mean they're not going to get up for any
They're
series,
friends with these guys.
They're buddies. There's no Philly. There's no, you went through Miami, but it wasn't really.
You got
Miami.
the "We Want Boston" chant. That's a little something.
There's no Milwaukee. You got a little "We Want Boston," but who gives a credit? They don't care.
Donovan was chill.
O'Shea Brissett didn't like it round 1.
Ooh, O'Shea's mad. Key to the series.
What, you put out a blog or something?
I mean, that's just a little something you mentioned going into the series. Oh, the fans chanted "We Want Boston."
We're going to hit this before we leave. I know you're asking for it. Go ahead, Bobby. Sorry. Go ahead.
So what was the question again?
Any chance that they play with their
I mean, they did it in round 1, right? In the second game there, they didn't defend. They let guys shoot. Those guys got
That's
hot.
what always kills me, right? With these guys is when they have the game 1 blowout's almost the worst thing that can happen, because then they're like, oh, let's just give me the ball, let me cook, and then they get away from what they're doing, and that's what happened, against Miami.
No, and I think that'll probably happen again here, because the Celtics are just so fresh. The Cavs just got torn up physically in that last series and played 2 days prior. So, yeah, it's hard not to imagine a game 1 big win for the Celtics here in this series. So, what's your level of focus off of that? Do you feel like you got it at that point? Is the attention to detail there? Because, again, the stuff you have to account for here. You have to account for Mitchell. Even hurt, banged up, he scored 50 in that game 6. You have to account for Garland and the shooting he brings to the table. He shot pretty well in that first series from 3. And then, we'll see what is available beyond that there. But it really is just about dealing with those wins the right way and following up on them. And they've done a pretty good job with it. The mentality of this team, John, I know they've had a lot of slip-ups in the past, but that's one thing you've been able to rely on them pretty solidly this year, is their consistency, their attention to detail, and their ability, if they do have a bad loss here in this series, and they might have one, there's just not many sweeps anymore, to bounce back and respond to that. And, I think the road environments will be pretty, tough in this series. I think that's a good crowd there in Cleveland. You lost the game there that you played there during the regular season. So I'll be interested to see how the road games go in this series. But coming so soon off that last series, Josue, I just think the exhaustion and injury factor in these first 2 games are going to make It's really difficult for the Cavs. And I know we didn't play a lot of Cavs sound tonight, but there was a funny moment in that game 7. Mitchell was kind of talking about playing the Celtics, and he was like, "Yeah, we'll go up there and try to get a game or two." Like the prospect of them winning 2 in Boston isn't even in their mind right now. They're just gonna try to steal 1.
Like a Freudian slip for sure. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I just think that's the advantage of wrapping up your series as quickly as the Celtics did, right? That you have to play for the Cavs, right? You have to play after a game 7, 2 days after a game 7, whereas the Celtics, they do well in these type of situations when they have all that time off to brainstorm, to go through things and recover essentially from the mistakes they made in round 1. And I don't think for a second that Joe Mazzulla didn't remind them of that, even the ones that didn't result in a loss. I just think the Celtics traditionally or historically throughout the season, they respond well, and I don't think game 1 will be any different. Do we see that version of the Celtics that we saw in game 2 against the Heat? Maybe, but if we do, I think it happens in Cleveland. I don't think it happens in this.
I agree.
In this homestand, at least the first 2 games of the series, and that's where I think the Cavs get their 1 win in this series.
Especially if Allen's out the first 2 games.
I have Boston winning this in 5, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see potentially Allen. I know it's a tough injury, but maybe they try to get him back in this series, and that helps defensively for against the Celtics. But yeah, I see the Celtics dropping one of these first 2 games of the series.
What's the outlook, John, for some rib bruising?
What, getting banged up here?
With Allen, is that something that's just going to shelve him here?
Jesus, ribs? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm surprised he's missing games, honestly. I thought that would be a pain tolerance thing. I can't believe he's out.
Got to heal its own. Yeah, it's not one of those.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of like you just got to play through it. So I mean, he's got to be super uncomfortable here. I don't think you can exacerbate that injury. I think it just hurts. So he must just be in just so much discomfort that he can't go out there and feel he can be effective.
Dustin was telling me last night he can't even raise his arm over his head. And
so that's the thing. Breathing. Is it's a straight up pain tolerance sort of thing. So if he's so banged up that he can't literally function in his normal day to day, he's not going to be able to play basketball. Yeah. It's just going to hurt too much. But that's also the type of thing that's going to get him a knock of just shoot it up and play.
He's so important too, man. He's a real advantage.
Oh my God,
Cavs physically,
just as important on the offense too.
Yeah, that is one big physical tough center. Yeah, I love his game.
Yeah, it changes. It changes for sure if he's healthy. And I'm not ruling him entirely out. It's just, as we said so many times with the Celtics this year, I'm always less concerned with what the other team does and just simply whether they do what they're supposed to do. Now, you drop a player, the margin for error increases here. I mean, decreases. So when Porzingis is gone, you can't just show up and win. But Allen does change the equation for sure. I don't think he's questionable for game 1. So even if he doesn't play, I don't believe you're missing. I have to guess if they're calling him questionable for game 1, there might be gamesmanship here, right, Bobby?
I think he was questionable for game 7, but he's not. But he never came out.
I gotta feel you see him by the time you get to Cleveland. I can't imagine he misses the whole thing with this, but I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what he's going through?
Yeah, it's hard to say. But it's definitely a pain tolerance thing for sure. You kind of just have to let the rib heal. It's nothing you can really do to expedite that process.
Yeah. One thing people were talking about, and we're gonna wrap here, but I know there was other news going out there. Interesting to see the teams that have already been dispatched and what might happen there. The Bucks were a mess with changing head coaches, making the trade, Lillard clearly never wanting to be there. Who knows what the future is going to hold there. Philly could be in a bit of turmoil as well.
Knicks down in game 1, by the way.
Knicks are down in game 1 for sure. The other thing was going on with over in Miami was interesting today. Jimmy Butler, people saw over the weekend, did some social media post about if I'm playing Boston's home right now. whatever, standard athlete bravado bullshit. I don't give a crap about it. Everybody does it. So it doesn't tweak me at all. And it honestly doesn't tweak, nor should it tweak the Celtics because Miami's home and they're playing and nobody gives a crap. But it did tweak Pat Riley, who did not like it at all. Here's Riley talking about it.
Him to say that, I thought, is that Jimmy trolling or is that Jimmy serious? If you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut.
Tell him, OG.
And your criticism of those teams.
Tell him.
That is great.
No, very matter of fact, but he went on to say, and some interesting stuff here, he did go on to say that, like, there was a question about whether or not, they're going to sign him and Butler, or, they're going to give him a contract extension. I think he's got another year here. But Riley was like, yeah, contract extension is.
Yeah, we still want
contract. But no, what he said was that depends on his availability. I think they might have thought Butler might have cruised a little this year or not. They didn't love it. They didn't love it. He signed for next year, $52 million player option. Yeah, he could decline it, but he wants more. He wants an extension. And Miami has until whatever it is, I forget, league year, end of June to figure it out. And he just said, yeah, we'll see. He's just got to play a little bit more. So it's interesting what's going on there. It might just be I love that Riley's not afraid to say shit like that. Yeah, I don't know how Butler reacts. I think Butler is one of those classic, not it's a matter of when, not if. He has an expiration date. He's going to wear out his welcome, eventually. But when you start to get older, you kind of lose a little bit of that. Like, you can't really you're not quite the commodity you were before when you start to get up there a teeny bit in age, and especially when you're not able to get on the court. So interesting stuff there, guys. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting for sure because that's a big part of if they're going to rebuild on the fly or try to extend this team, this era. I mean, he's a big part of that. But at the same time, like you said, John, he's not getting any younger. He's
going to be 35 when the season starts. He's 34 now. He turns 35 in September. Yeah.
These last 4 years went by really fast. And maybe that's the result of the bubble, the condensed season the year after and all that. But this whole you can coast through the regular season and save him for the playoffs. That didn't work this year. And it's hard to envision that working next year or the year after that as he gets older and older. And, it's harder for him to come back from these injuries and wear and tear and all that. So, yeah, I think there's a conversation that has to be had between the organization and Jimmy. Like, hey, if we're going to bring you back here, we have to find somewhere in the middle here. Like, sure, maybe, it wouldn't be best for both parties if you play all 82 games every single year. Of course not. But we need some more you on the floor. We need seeding. That's got to be a priority now. We can't just assume that we can make that type of run we did in 2023 or in 2023, play-in tournament, and then hopefully we can cruise through. Like that's not an easier. That route doesn't get any easier as the NBA continues with this, end season tournament, or play-in tournament rather. So I just think that's the first thing they have to do. Have that conversation, talk about potential targets and all that, but they have to be on the same page before you go ahead and re-sign someone like that who about to turn 35 in a couple of months or next month.
Yep.
That's exactly, I think, Howard Beck a week or two ago had floated out there that they're maybe not on the same page here, and a little more recently. So those rumblings have been out there that, I think it's pretty obvious. You don't want to extend a guy at Jaylen Brown money who is as sparsely available as Butler is, and who's aging to this degree that as he is. And his stats all dropped off this year. He went from an all-NBA guy to a guy who wasn't really close and certainly ineligible under the new rules here. And it's not that he got hurt in the play-in. That was, a contact injury, a freak play. But the fact that his, absence throughout the year set them up to be an 8 seed, and they were an 8 seed a year ago. And you can't do that every year. You can have a miracle run once or twice here over 4 or 5 years, but that can't be your formula for getting to the finals. And then when they've gotten to the finals, they've faced a team that they had no chance against. So I've felt for a little while, and I don't know if they can get enough value for him. That's going to be the question here, but you have to look to trade him this summer. I think you just have to do a mini reset, roll over to whatever the next star is going to be here. And maybe that guy comes right in as he goes out, but you need a more well-rounded team. You need real role players and depth. And if you have to go to the draft for a rough year here, it's not the worst thing in the world. I know these next couple drafts aren't the best here, but they've drafted well. And we've seen like a Tyrese Maxey can get you right back in the mix.
Look, it's a great infrastructure. You have a great, guy who runs the operation in Riley. You have the best head coach in basketball, and it's Miami, so people are always going to want to go there.
You want to think it's bigger than Butler, right?
A rebuild. You don't need Jimmy Butler because a rebuild in Miami is easier because of all of those things. You always want people to come play with you. You find a way to clear out cap space, and then two guys come free and say, "Let's team up and go form a super team." And that's how it works. And it's Miami, and people are going to want to do that. So I think they have some leeway here regarding Butler. But it is interesting.
Interested in seeing him go to?
I don't care at all. I really don't. Like this league, I think the olds, we're kind of done with the olds here a little bit. You're seeing it. You're seeing a little bit of a changing of the guard. I think we're going to pay less attention to the Georges and the Leonards and the Butlers and this and that and the Anthony Davises. I think we are turning a page here where those guys are fine, but where they go and what they do starts to matter less and less because you're kind of seeing the league being really shifting now more towards the younger talent who are taking it over. So I'm done with the olds. I respect the hell out of them. I just don't think that their movement, the player movement of those guys forcing their way out and throwing tantrums and this and that is really going to have enough of a major impact anymore going forward, given the state of the rest of the league. We do have to wrap it up.
That's the thing, John, real quick. I think that's why if you're Miami, you almost have to keep him, because you want to draw in some interest. And let's face it, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, that's not a bad place to start for a lot of potential, maybe not free agents, but trade targets that could turn out.
I know if he keeps getting worse though, Josue, it's going to turn bad for that contract.
Yeah, but you sort of have to bite that bullet and hope that 2-year window you could squeeze out a run. I mean, that's pretty much where they're at right now, and I don't think any of us are surprised. We didn't see. I mean, we all saw this coming before the season started for sure. Like, that window gets smaller and smaller. But yeah, you're right.
No doubt about it. Anyway, game 1 tomorrow, Celtics versus the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Finally.
It should be a lot of fun. We're going to be here. We're going to be loaded up. And finally, we've got some games covering the team home and away here at CLNS Media because that's what we do. Follow Bobby Manning, follow Josue Pavon, and follow Celtics CLNS. Make sure you like this video and subscribe. Tell all your friends about it. Again, round 2, people. Let's go. Let's get it up.
Get excited. Let's go.
I'm trying to get excited. I might need you guys to help us get excited. Okay.
We got some. There we go. We got some Bruins coverage tonight.
I was going to say, well, John swamped.
George
on across.
Yes, George Carlo Pasca. We have some, and it's honestly really good. Bruins postgame show. Evan Marinofsky, heading the charge over there and getting good numbers over there on those shows. It's really getting a lot of people kind of tuning in here. We didn't even make it to round 2 last year, which is great. And Carl Corazzini, former NHL player. It's a very fun, entertaining, and informative postgame show. Evan is great. Carl really knows his stuff. Check it out. The Bruins are tied 0-0 after 1. Pacers and Knicks really going at it. Breaking basketball news right now. Rudy Gobert is out tonight, so that'll change the complexion.
By the way, everybody's got a shoe in Knicks Celtics here, and I really hope it happens, but the Pacers are going to give the Knicks everything they got. That's going to be a long series.
I'm definitely not stunned. Yeah, right. I'm not stunned by it. Yeah, I wouldn't be stunned by it. I think it's going to be a good series too. Everyone's having more fun in the other series. These Celtics series are boring. Everyone else is having a great one.
Not a bad thing, I guess.
Yeah. But we are going to wrap it. We'll see you guys tomorrow. A lot more. We'll have the full crew back with Sherrod and Jimmy in there as well. So we do thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Wouldn't be the show without you. We will see you guys tomorrow night immediately after the game.
Wait, Amit's got an outro for us, I think.
No, he doesn't.
He said he was going to work on an outro.
He had a phenomenal game.
Phenomenal game.
Forfeit's out. I think it's an auction. That did not sound like a chair.
It was a freaking chair. It does sound like a chair.